This week's Parsha is Parsha Nitzavim, and this Torah is going to be based on a shiur I heard from Rav Bernstein. This is 2011 shiur, and I'll post it below. So, Parsha Nitzavim follows Parshat Kitavo, right? Last week's Parsha was the Parsha of the Tochacha. It's 98 curses and just over 60 psukim. It's a lot. And Moshe is now kind of dealing with after the giving of the Tochacha. And he says that there will be some people who might have an unusual and unexpected reaction. Now, namely, this is a very short parsha, so we're in the third aliyah, but we're still on the first page if you're in Art Scroll. So it's chapter 29, verse 17, and it says like this: right? Unless there be among you an individual or a group, right, whose heart turns away today from being with Hashem, our God. So this person might go and worship idols, do avodah zarah. And then verse 18, now you have this puzzle that says, and it will be that when he hears the words of this imprecation, he will bless himself in his heart, saying, peace will be with me, though I walk as my heart sees fit, thereby adding the watered upon the thirsty. Now, that lashon at the end, it seems to be very poetic and unusual. What exactly is the Torah doing here, putting in that strange lashon? But then we hear God's reaction, right? Lo yoveh Hashem slach lo, Hashem will not forgive him. And then the next pasuk says, V'hivdelo Hashem l'ra mikol shivtei Yisrael, and Hashem will separate him for evil from the rest of the tribes. And that's what's happening. Now, if we just read these psukim, it seems to be that when this individual or group hears the tochacha, their reaction is just to ignore it. They don't care. They'll continue to do whatever they want. They'll hear the curse. They'll ignore it, and that's that. However, there's a different way of understanding this, and it goes like this. Because the pasuk says, as in there are different other mafarshim who do not understand it like that, because the pasuk in verse 18 says, V'haya b'sham'o et divrei ha'olah hazot. It's specifically when he hears the tochacha. That's what prompts him to say, once he hears it, it's actually a cause and effect relationship. The fact that he heard the tochacha is what's causing his reaction to say, I'll just do whatever I want, and I'll be fine. Now, that seems like a stretch. Where does he get support for that position, from that point of view? You hear the tochacha and your first reaction is, well, I can do whatever I want and I'll be okay. Where do you get that from? And moreover, why does, again, the pasuk end with Leman tzvot harava et hatzmea, right? Thereby adding the watered upon the thirsty. Where does that come from? What does that mean? So, the Vilna Gaon lists, by way of explaining in his Sefer Aderes Aliyah, he talks about this, and he establishes a yesod, a foundational way of reading Chumash. That is, it's specific. That is to say, the Torah will often speak b'lashon rabim, and it does also speak b'lashon yachid. What is the difference between speaking in the plural and in the singular? So when the Torah refers to the Jewish people in the plural, right, uspartem, right, or in any plural language, it's speaking to the Jewish people as individuals, as in all of you as individuals have these obligations, as opposed to when the Torah speaks in the singular, right, like ata or vayichan. So in such an example, the Torah is referring to the Jewish people as an entity, as in capital J, capital P, Jewish people. It's one entity, and that's it. Okay, so, and we see, by the way, that this actually has halachic ramifications. The Gemara speaks about something like this twice. We'll speak about the second one. For example, usfartem lachem, right? When we're speaking about the Omer, the Torah says usfartem lachem in the plural, and that means that every individual has an obligation to count the Omer. And in fact, we're familiar with this. We do count the Omer. Okay, every single one of us. Now, as opposed to if the Torah had said v'safarta lecha, if it had said that, then seemingly we would not all have to do it. It would just be one mitzvah laden upon the entire Jewish people. And actually we see that. When it comes to Shemitah and to Yovel, it says v'safarta lecha, right, in Lashon Yachid, and as a result, the mitzvah is on the Beit Din, right, the leaders of the Jewish people, the central court of the Jewish people, to count the Shemitah cycles in the Yovel year. That is their job. And we do not do this. I'm certain that nobody here has heard their friends counting, this is the third Shemitah cycle in the Yovel year, and nobody ever hears that because it's not an individual obligation like the counting the Omer is. So that is an example of a Lashon Rapim and a Lashon Yachid. And so therefore that proves the Vilna Gaon's point. Now, why does that matter? What does that do for us here? So says the Vilna Gaon that there's a Gemara in Megillah, I think it's Lamed Aleph. It says like this, that we just heard the second Tochacha. Are there any differences among the first Tochacha at the end of Sefer Vayikra and the one we just read last week? The answer is yes. There are a number of differences. And one of them is that the one at the end of Sefer Vayikra is in Bechukotai is said in the Lashon Rabim, right? Im Timasu, right? We've spoken about this before, as opposed to here. Here's the Lashon Yachid. It was said in the singular. That was last week. And so we understand that the Tochacha from the end of Sefer Vayikra is speaking to each person as individual too. If you as individuals do this, then this will result. As opposed to last week, it's if you as the Jewish people. Now, with that, there is room for a serious error. And that is to say, one might think, if they were to hear this general language, that as long as the Jewish people as a whole are doing what they're supposed to be doing, then I, as an individual, can do whatever I want, and I'll reap the profits. I'll gain everything there is to be gained. There won't be any trouble. Why? Because look, when the pipes flow, right, when a field is being watered, then nobody is going to go check every single blade of grass. Is going to check every single stalk of grain to make sure that, this actually seems to be doing okay. I'm not going to water it. I'll water everything else. You just water the entire field and be done with it. And if there are blades of grass that are doing okay, then they'll benefit too. So to here, says this person. It's like, look, when God turns the pipes on, He's going to turn it on for the entire Jewish people. I'm part of the Jewish people, and therefore I'll be fine, and even though I do what I want. And therefore, says the Psukim, right? Right? When he hears the words of this curse, he'll say, "I'll be fine." And then we see at the end of the pasuk says, "L'ma'an sfot harava et atzmea," thereby adding the watered upon the thirsty. He is the watered. He is doing okay, but everyone else is thirsty. God needs to water them. But the thing is, when God is watering the rest of the Jewish people, all reap the benefits. All bring in the dividends. And that's the risk. And therefore, the Torah has to go out of its way to make sure that you don't think that. And how does it do that? It says like this. The very next pasuk says, Lo yeveh Hashem sulach lo. Hashem will not forgive him. Don't think, other Jewish people, that this person will escape free. And more importantly, that person should not think he's going to escape free. Why? Because then in the next pasuk we see in pasuk 20, V'hivdilo Hashem l'ra mikol shiftei Yisrael. Right? Because God will separate him. That's to say, this person is abusing the concept of a klal to escape punishment and to escape any of his own obligations. And so because he is using the klal to separate himself from the klal, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is like, I don't think that's going to work. I'm going to separate you from the klal because that's a klal. You are separating yourself from it. If you want to participate with the klal and then reap the benefits, that's fine. But you can't separate yourself from the klal and then think that you'll get what's coming to the rest of the Jewish people. And so we'll end it there. There's more to say, but Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova.